So in this video today, I'm going to talk about this machine right here, a surface planer. Okay, so when I posted my video on my sander, my big drum sander that I have over there, which you can see right up here, some people asked about the difference between a planer and a sander. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about this planer and eventually, address what I think the reason is they should have both. Now, this particular planer is a DeWalt planer. It's pretty much been the same design for quite some time. As a matter of fact, when I bought this at a woodworking show with a buddy of mine, and the people that I was buying it off of actually did business with him, and he purchased a lot of equipment from them for his company. So they gave me a really good price on this. I think all total, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure it was like $2.99, and that included these extra little fold-up tables out front and back. That included a extra set of blades, which you can see I haven't used. It also included a vacuum system, or just a it actually was a hose that went to a open bag that slid over a trash can that you could actually have the chips go right into the trash can. And so I've had this thing for a long time. I had to call up my buddy and ask him when that was, and he thinks, and I think that he's correct on that it was around 2008, 2009 that I purchased this. It might have even been a little bit sooner. But so it sat in my shop for a number of years without me using it at all. I mean, it just sat on the bench that I had it on. Never touched it, never turned it on once. And in fact, when I turned it on, the first time I turned it on, it was so far out of warranty that if it didn't work, I was up the creek. But it did worked perfect. So this particular model here, I think is a really good buy, even at today's price, compared to a lot of other ones. And I'll tell you why. I've used this quite a bit, and as you can see, I still haven't had to replace the blades yet. And I'm very particular on what wood I put through. I don't put really old jagged piece of wood there to clean them off. It's generally a wood that I want to mill down to a certain size. And so this thing has stayed really in great shape. So let me talk a little bit about why I purchased this one. Now this one, compared to other ones that I've seen, it has a built-in vacuum system that automatically throws the chips into this output here. Now I always hook it up to my shop vac, and when I run wood through it, and you can see, hopefully I'm playing a video right now that you can see it, but very little chips come flying out of this thing. And I've watched other ones that just have a ton of chips flying everywhere. And so I like the fact that this, when I'm done with it, I have very little cleanup when I'm running wood to it. Now, the way that this mills down the wood is there are 3 blades in the center, and there are 2 little rollers at each end. And so they're the pressure roller, so that when the wood goes through, the roller, let me get this up a little bit, the rollers hold the wood down onto the surface. And then that pushes it through, and then it goes through the cutter mills it down, and it picks up on the second roller, and that helps push them both through. So one of the things that you get from this is what's called Snipe, and that's at the very end of each piece of the wood. And what happens is when it goes through, it's on the one roller that's pushing it through, and so when it hits that blade, it wants to sort of pull it up a little bit, especially if you're making a deep cut. And so it gives a little bit of a curb chip out at the beginning, and also at the end, as it goes out, it'll pull up the wood will weight down on this, and it'll pull up a little bit and get a little bit of snipe at the end. And one of the things that helps it out is having extended tables like this. Keeping whatever piece that you have running through level all the time helps eliminate some of the snipe. Probably the easiest way to completely eliminate it is that you cut your pieces so they're about 2 inches longer than they need to be, and then you can cut off an inch at one end and cut off an inch at the other end. That's going to get rid of any snipe that may appear at all. Now in my case, whenever I do have snipe, it's a very small amount, and after I'm done here, I take it over to my drum sander, and that sort of gets rid of all of that. But what I do is I take very small cuts. I don't take very deep cuts at all. And this has 2 speeds here, it has 1 and 2, and let me get the numbers for you exactly. This is 179 cuts per inch, And this one is 90, as I'm moving everything here, let me get this back here. And this one is 96 cuts per inch. So as the wood is going through, it's cutting twice as much, or well, just about twice as much as it does here. And I always have it at that setting. Now, some people don't like that because it takes a little bit longer. It doesn't run through quite as fast. And, you know, I think it's worth it because the wood that I sent through, I want it to look as great as it can when it comes out. And I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm not milling down wood that's pretty ratty. I just want to get it, you know, milled down to thickness real quick. Now, most of the time you want to use a planer for specifically milling down wood to different sizes. You can use it for cleaning up the face and making sure that the face is true and flat, especially if you use a joiner first. When you run the jointed side of the face down here and this part here, it's going to make sure that they're both parallel to each other and that they're both flat to each other. But that would be the main thing I use it for, really, is for that purpose, is to mill down the wood to different thickness. So if I have 3/4 inch wood, I'm going to mill it down to 1/2 inch rather than have to go all the way down to my lumber company and buy a 1/2 inch piece. You know, it's just cheaper for me to buy large bulks of 3/4, and then whatever 1/2 inch I need, cut it to size, run it through here, and then work that way. So if I go down to 1/4 inch, then I'm going to take it on my bandsaw and go ahead and rip through that and cut it, you know, in half, and then run it through here to clean up one side or the other to get it down to 1/4 inch. But mainly that's all this is used for in my shop, is strictly just to get wood down to the size or the finished size that I need. So if I have some wood that's over 3/4 inch and I need it down to 3, like if I have 13/16 or above, and I want to get it down to 3/4 inch, I'm going to run it through this real quick and then on over to the drum sander for a finish on that. The other thing you could use this for is if you have different types of wood and you want to make sure that they are all exactly the same thickness, you can run it through this. And again, I take very small cuts and just repeat the process a number of times. You know, you can take a good sized cut on this thing, but I very seldom go past the 64th of a cut, maybe a 32nd at times if it's a softer wood, and run it through. The only time I would speed it up or take bigger cuts is if I was burning the wood because it's going too slow, or maybe it's too wet and you know, I just needed to run through faster. That'd be the only time I'd speed it up. But other than that, I just use it at that speed. So I've been using this thing constantly now. Like I said, the first 10 years or so, I didn't use this thing at all. But I've been using it constantly now for about the past 3 or 4 years. And I gotta say, it's a fantastic machine. It has some wear marks here on the plate here, has stuff's going through. But I keep it clean. I always blow it off and you know, get it clean once I'm done with it. And it's in great shape. And you know, you wouldn't think it was as old as it is, but it just works. This particular machine continuously works. And like I said, the biggest draw for me really is the fact that the dust collection on this is fantastic. It just pulls all of that stuff out of there. When I have it hooked to my vacuum cleaner, I would say probably 99% of the wood, if not a little bit more than that, goes into the vacuum and gets sucked out. There are some bits that come out here and the front and the back, but nothing like some of the ones I see. They just have a ton of stuff coming out. Now this has a built-in fan that does suck the wood out, so I don't know how much of a difference my vacuum makes on that. I haven't tried it with just a fan and that little hose hooked up to a trash can. It might work just perfectly fine, I'm not sure. But I know that the way that I use it here, it works really well. So would I recommend this machine? You know, I can't say that I'd recommend it over others, because the only thing I know about other machines is that I watch them on YouTube and see how they work. But in my shop and for what I do, this thing is fantastic. It's durable. It holds up test of time. Still making nice cuts. The blades are nice and sharp, and they're relatively easy to change. I actually took the blades out and reinstalled them one time just to see how hard it was, and it wasn't difficult at all. And the tools are even right here to help you do that. So yeah, it's a good machine. I think if you're looking to get a planer in your shop, you definitely want to get this thing. Now, just to touch on getting a planer as compared to a drum sander, or drum sander compared to a planer. I think if all you did is finish the wood, you just want to get it flat and maybe use you you know, the drum sander to bring the wood down a little bit, like, you know, let's say you have oversized 3/4 inch wood and you just want to bring it down that way. A drum sander would probably be all that you need. It'd work just fine, and it's not going to be that much difference between. People argue, you know, that you get a blade cut on this, so it's perfectly flat, whereas a sander may not be perfectly flat. But it's not going to, you're not going to notice it when you're putting things together or finishing them up or gluing up pieces. Most of the time, if I'm gluing up a bunch of pieces I want all the same size, I'd run through this. If I did a cutting board that has the width that I can bring it through here, I would run that through here first, then to the sander, just to get all the pieces of wood down to the same height. But that's the reason that you'd want a planer as opposed to a drum sander, or, you know, drum sander over a planer. So I think that, you know, if you have a shop, I may, you know, if you don't bring down a lot of wood to 1/2 inch, I'd probably get a drum sander first. If you do want to mill down wood to 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, I'd probably get the planer first and the sander second. But in my shop, I'm lucky enough to have both, and I think it's really an asset if you do get both in your shop. I think that you'll really, really be happy to have both of them. So please give me a like and subscribe. But if you have any comments, leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you as to what you think. You know, if you have another planer, what you think about that, or, you know, what your thoughts are between a sander, drum sander, and a planer. Which one should you have in the shop first, or should you even have both of them in your shop? So I really enjoy hearing from you guys. I do try to answer all the comments that are down there, so don't be afraid to leave them. And hopefully you'll be around for the next video. Thanks for watching this one.